a second and tell us about your new book and what happened in Italy? Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, that you thought the prosecutor thought there was a conspiracy, whereas you didn't believe. Just tell us a little bit about that story.
Well, it was the monster of Florence was a serial killer who murdered young lovers in the hills of Florence and was never caught. And this particular prosecutor thought that it was a conspiracy of dating back to the Middle Ages, basically a cult or a medieval cult of powerful noblemen, doctors, people, highly placed people in Florentine society who needed body parts for their black masses. And so this prosecutor is an incredible conspiracy theorist to the point where I think he's probably mentally ill. And he's also the same prosecutor in the Amanda Knox case where he started to weave a crazy conspiracy, which was, but, I think that's actually part of the Italian psyche, the conspiracy idea. The Italians call it dietrologia, which means the truth behind what you see. And no Italian with any self-respect is going to accept reality as truth. The banality of crime or whatever, no. Something else is behind it, some dark thing is operating, and this is what every Italian thinks. Americans, we're not really good conspiracy theorists. I mean, we do have a few kooks, but Italy is riven with conspiracy theory, and in fact, there is nobody in Italy who will accept reality on its surface. They'll always lower their voice and say, well, what's really going on is, and then you hear some crazy-ass conspiracy theory. But it's a national pastime.
So you think, do others here, just one last question on conspiracy, do others here think Americans, readers, buy into conspiracy theories or find that to be...
Well, I mean, let's face it, most of our thrillers are unraveling conspiracy theories, which is why I say ultimately they don't last, is because there are always very clever thriller writers to come along and expose them. And
if I'm not mistaken, Glenn Beck does not believe in conspiracy theories.
Right.
Let me just throw this one out. Because reality is moving quickly. This has happened. I'll just say this happens to me. I write about technology. Technology changes very rapidly. I write about it nonfiction and fiction. Have you been in a position where the fast pace at which our world moves has forced you to change something in your fiction to reflect a changing world?
I can speak to this because by choosing a topic as cutting edge as stem cell research, it's constantly changing by its nature. And I was deep into my book when news broke a couple of years ago that scientists had figured out a way to turn skin cells back into embryonic stem cell-like cells. And I thought, oh my God, my book is over. Nobody's going to care about embryonic stem cells anymore, and it's going to be, passé. But I clung to the book anyway, and I finished it, and it turned out actually that news did break pretty recently and quietly that these stem cells have some of their own problems, and they are not as versatile. And I did work a couple of lines into my own book saying, in some dialogue, I think, and backstory, to say that they still needed to use these cells because the other ones could present unheard of complications. So that was kind of the way that I dealt with this breakthrough.
Go ahead, Brad. I'm 2 books ahead of schedule, which is great, and most writers
hold on, everyone now, boo.
Yeah, I suck. But there are downfalls to this. So in the book, in Eyes of the Innocent that just came out, I wrote this thing in 2008, and I needed a character who had an embarrassing social networking situation that I made happen on MySpace.
Ooh. Well done.
And I'm suddenly, but I'm suddenly going through edits, and it's 2 years after I've written, I'm like, MySpace, huh? Okay, that's now happening on Twitter. There we go. So yes, it does make you change things.
Can I don't want to be hypercritical of panelists. I'm grateful for your input, but you were out of it in 2008. Yeah.
I just say the thing that kills me as a writer is the goddamn cell phone. It's like, thrillers, one of the great things in thriller writing is 2 characters who have crucial information who can't get hold of each other. And the cell phone is like, they can just call each other anytime, anywhere. Even I was just going through the Midtown Tunnel in Manhattan, and my cell phone I was saying, I'm going to lose you. I'm going to no, the damn cell phone worked through the whole Midtown Tunnel.
You obviously
you don't have Sprint.
Technology's really killed an element of, it really forced us to rewrite our elements of suspense.
So now you have to think of all kinds of really creative ways of why your character lost his cell phone.
Can you imagine Odysseus saying,
honey, I'll be home. Bye.
I'll
see you in a little bit.
I'll just skip the boat ride. It's probably not going to work out.
So I bring a sheep home from the Cyclops on my way back.
My take on this, my front door is 2 miles from the site of the Murrah building, federal bombing in Oklahoma City. At the time that happened in 1995, I was pre-published, I guess would be the word, at that time. And I was working on a novel that had to do with domestic extremism, domestic terrorism, and I stopped dead in my tracks because I just couldn't do anymore, because everyone in my city knew someone who had been personally affected by what happened there. And I stopped. I put that novel in a drawer and I started something else because I just couldn't take it anymore. 7 years later, I was able to come back to it. The wounds were not so raw anymore in my city. Of course, by that time, I started writing that story again, although it was a different story, naturally, at that time. While that was happening, then September 11th took place. I stopped for a while, but went on, because it was a little bit of a different take. But yeah, it took me 7 years to come back to a story that I had started about a certain topic, and that book became my first published book. So I think that reality affects all of us, whether it's on a personal level or something more detached, and we can't escape it.